Welcome back to Automated Notion. Today I'll be answering a question submitted by one of you. So the question is, how do you automatically assign database relations, that is a date, to another database according to its respective month? So I have an example. All right, so you can see at the top here we have our month database, and we are related back to our habit tracker, and we are showing the percentage of how often we're actually going to the gym. And below here is our actual habit tracker. So the first thing that we want to do is, if we're going to automate relating the habit tracker back to the month, let's automate as much as possible. And so let's set it up so that every morning before we even get out of the bed, our habit tracker has an entry for that day. It's not checked off because we haven't gone to the gym yet, but it saves us the trouble actually creating a new item and naming it. It's going to be done for us. So let's go over to my favorite automation site, make.com, formerly known as Integromat. And the first thing we're going to do is create a database item, and let's connect it to our habit track. Okay, so we need to name this, and we want to name this the date, the month, the day, and the year in digits, or however way you'd like to format your date. Go over to the date functions, select format. After the open parentheses, add your variable now, the date that it is right now, and we're going to strip away the time, and we just want it to have month / day / year. And I think we're doing a 2-digit year. Okay, so that's how we're going to format our name. We'll leave gym unchecked. For the start time, we want that just to simply be now. No end time, and we're not including the actual time that this is created. And we're going to leave the month relation alone for right now. Click OK, and we're just going to run it to test it. And if I go over to my habit tracker, there we are. There's today's date, which is November 2nd, 2022. Now the next step is a search module. So search objects. We're searching within our month database, and we'll search by name. And once again, I'm going to format my date. So after the open parentheses, choose now. And this time we just want the month written out. So 4 capital M's. And let's run it. There you go. So our filter looked for November and found it. So if we check our output, you can see plain text. It found November. Okay, so now that we found November, let's go ahead and create that relation. So update database item. And we're going to go back to our habit tracker because it's easier to relate one page than to relate, 20. Because if we tried to do this relation within the month database, we have to keep in mind all those other days. Let's collapse, create a database item. And it's our database item ID from the first module. Scroll all the way down to the bottom to month. And let's actually close these other fields so you can see better. And select map, select page ID. So I'm going to go back to habits. Let's zoom out here and delete our test entry, the first one. And let's go to make. And actually, so I'm using Arc as my browser. Let's open split view. There we go. So this way you can see these side by side. Perfect. All right, let's click save within make and then run. And there you go. You see that we have a new entry for November 2nd that's related back to our month, November, within our month database. And if I check this off, you can see we have 100% for November. Now, what if November did not exist? Because again, I want to make sure that we automate as much as possible. So since November does not exist, let's create a filter first in between the search module and the update module. Let's create a filter that the search objects module had at least one result. So we're going to go down to date operations. Actually, sorry, numeric is greater than 0. Okay, because if it didn't have any results, it could create an error. So we needed to put in some sort of filter in here anyway. So we're telling it only proceed to update the database item if there is more than, if there actually is a result. Okay, and now where is my new module? There we go. Select create a database item. Now we have a router here. Before I get there, let's create another filter where the total number of bundles is equal to, total number of bundles is equal to 0. This one is greater than 0. Okay. So this create database item is only going to happen if there are no results. Let's connect this to our month database. So our name. So over here in our month database, you see we have October written out. So that's how we want to format our name. So let's go over to our month page, format date, and basically how we did it with the daily page. Now, and this time our format is going to be the month written out. Okay, so we have our name, but what about the start time? Let's see, we want to get the date, but we want the start date to be the first of the month. Set date, after the open parentheses, we're going to put now. And then the actual date, we want it to be the first. We have the set date function. We're taking today's date, but we want to change the actual date to the first. So I just want to test this out first, just to make sure we have it correct. Awesome. So you see, it did. It changed the date is the date that I'm shooting this is the 2nd, and it changed the date to the 1st. Okay, but what about the end date? I just deleted the example so we don't have too many in there. All right, so we have the start time. What about the end time? Now, this is where things get a little bit complicated because we have to try to determine what is the last date of the month. So for end time, I want to first establish a month from now. Sorry, working it out in my brain. I'm doing this in real time right now. So let's select add months. And again, we're using now, today's date, and then we're adding 1 month. Okay. And let's run that just to test it. Okay, so you see we have December 2nd. Okay, so we've determined we've gotten December 2nd. And now I want to set the date just like we did in the start time. I want the set date function. So there's two different, there's set day, D-A-Y, which that's going to give you the actual like day of the week or day of the month. We want set date, that so that we select the numeric date. We're going to set the date, semicolon, and then we're setting it to the 1st and close parentheses. And let's run this module. All right, so we see we have a new entry in month, and it is from November 1st to December 1st. But we want from November 1st to the last day of November. And we're working from the middle outward. Now that we have that, we are going to subtract 1 day. And we're going to do this using the add days module. So instead of adding a day, let's delete our semicolon and close parentheses and add it at the end. So semicolon. Instead of adding a day, subtract 1 or -1 and close parentheses. Okay, just to reiterate what we're doing. We told Make to add 1 month, so jump ahead to 1 month from now, set the date of that month to the 1st, and then subtract a day, basically go back a day to the last day of this month. And let's run it. Okay, so we have a new entry. Let's delete the December 1st one. And we have a new entry, November 1st, 2022 to November 30th, 2022. And just so that you can see it again, and I'm going to zoom in. Let's run it to test it one more time. There you go, November 1st to November 30th. But we still need it to relate back to the entry that it just created. I'm just going to copy my update module from below. So let's copy module and then paste, or you can clone it and connect that to the create month module. And everything here should be exactly the same as before. We are updating the daily module, and we are relating it back to no, because we are relating it to the database item for the month that we just created. So that's module 10, and make sure, yes, all right. So let's go ahead and zoom out over here so we can see the entire thing run at the same time. Let's save. Yay! Yay! So you see it created a daily entry, and it automatically also created the month and related it back to the entry that we just made. So this is a success. I should get like a graphic that says, success. So if you enjoyed this, please give it a like, please subscribe, comment below again if you have any questions, and until next time, happy building in Notion.